Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and this is Impact Hard to Kill report from January the 16th, 2021. So, there were some programming notes we need to go through first before we get into the show. One, Alex Shelley was not able to perform at this show. He was replaced by Moose. And to be quite honest, that replacement was pretty badass. We'll get there. Madison Rayne officially retired after 12 years in Impact. She was choked up. I think she was the only one. Josh Matthews was given I was about to say a raise. He was given a promotion to executive producer or something like that for Impact Wrestling. So we have new commentary team, which is D'Lo Brown and Matt Stryker. Two babyface announcers. Okay. It was an interesting experiment. We will go through it as the night goes on because they said some very interesting things. So that was the programming notes. Now let's get into the show. The show started with Decay, Rosemary and Crazy Steve versus Tennille Dashwood and Caleb with a K. This match was a big bowl of yikes. For starters, they just said women and men can wrestle each other. So Caleb with the K was wrestling Rosemary. He kicked her in the face at one point. Of course, Steve was wrestling Tennille Dashwood at one point. They piped in some crowd noise, which actually made the show more watchable. It really did. So it really helped. I don't care what people have to say about, the fake crowd noise. Like, it helps. It really does. Because Impact, it sounded like a YMCA in there. Like, it sounded like people playing a pickup game. That's what it sounded like in that empty ass arena. Pipe in some noise. Ring of Honor, it's on you now. But I guess Ring of Honor has a more realistic style, so it actually helps. It actually helps that the crowd is quiet because you can hear every chop, every groan, every stuff like that. So the match ended with whoa, my goodness. Okay, so before we even get to the match ending, Caleb with the K and Tennille Dashwood were taking pictures, which is Tennille Dashwood's gimmick, during the match, even during moves, right? Caleb was about to do a moonsault. He stopped so that Tennille Dashwood could take pictures while he's doing his moonsault. It was absolutely stupid. Decay was biting. They bit him like 100 times. A lot of biting. Crazy Steve spit green mist into Tennille Dashwood's face because she was trying to spray him with, I don't know, hairspray, oil sheen. I don't know what the fuck that was. It was in a yellow can. I ain't never seen anything in a yellow can, so I don't know. And then Rosemary spit green mist into Caleb with a K's face because he was trying to attack him, and that led to Caleb getting pinned. And I don't know who pinned him. I don't even care anymore, to be quite honest. I'm glad they got this out of the way. Look, as much as I love Decay and I love Rosemary, this was stupid. Caleb is not a serious competitor. This was just all around dumb. So the next match was Eric Young, Diener, and Joe Doring, which, I'll talk about their name in a minute, versus Rhino, Tommy Dreamer, and Cousin Jake. So the story with Eric Young was that they were going to be the cure for the sickness of pro wrestling, right? So you would think if they come up with a faction name, they would use the Cure, right? You would think that would be the name. That would be a dope name and it would actually fit. They came up with the name Violent by Design. That was the name that they came up with. Violent by Design. That is the name of their faction. The Cure is right there. I don't know. Maybe it's a wrestler named The Cure. I know there's a band named The Cure, but this is for a different thing. You can trademark it for a band and you can have a trademark for wrestling. It's two different. Well, actually, no, you can't. I don't think you can because it's for entertainment purposes. So maybe it'd be confusion. So maybe they couldn't use The Cure, but it seems to me that Violent by Design was a definitely worse option than, maybe using some other name. Rhino on his tights had built Rhino Tough. For if you are from the Detroit area, you've seen it. The logo was similar to Ford Motor Company, which I thought was just very interesting. Not anything particularly worth complaining about or being happy about. I just thought it was interesting. Like, it was like that meme. Like, I recognize that. I got that reference. There were thumbtacks, which Eric Young got back body dropped into. So this match was basically just guys hitting each other with stuff. And it was what it was. Matt Striker, he kept talking. He went full Tony Schiavone. This is going to be the greatest night in the history of our sport. Oh, Tommy Dreamer really loves our sport. Oh, everybody's doing such a great job for the history of our sport. Our sport this, our sport that. Oh, this is a great night for our sport. It's like, what the? Shut the hell up. He annoyed the hell out of me tonight. But he was better than Josh Matthews. Josh Matthews has low energy, no energy. He sounds impotent. He sucks. So I'll take Matt Striker's mark in anytime. So Eric Young pinned Cousin Jake with a power driver after he hit him with the mask. They're still trying to get the mask over as a weapon when it is not a weapon. We're going to do all the Swan stuff together. The third match, which was because it was a Swan segment, that was next. So I'm going to skip that. We're going to do all that together at one time. So there was the Knockouts Tag Team Championship was Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz versus Havoc and Nevaeh. There's two things I want to mention about Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. Number one, Kiera Hogan is thick as mashed potatoes. And I'm not talking about that shit you get out of a box. I'm talking about somebody taking all day to boil potatoes. The kind of potatoes that come out when you actually sit down and boil some potatoes, she is thick as that. I'm talking like before you put the milk in. I mean, she can probably break a spoon. She's that thick. But then they came up with their name, which is Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. Their name is Fire and Flavor. Fire and Flavor. Whatever. So, Havoc and Nevaeh are people I never paid attention to. Even when they're on the screen, I've been watching these women for over a year. And Jessica Havoc and Nevaeh just exist, as far as I'm concerned. They really have no personalities. There's nothing individual about them. But Havoc at least is the big girl who does like power moves. And that's what she was doing in this match. She was doing like power moves. She's like, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz are two smaller women. So she was basically dominating them. Did a dual fall away slam and had both of them stacked on top of her. She did a double power bomb. But Nevaeh, who is Nevaeh? What is Nevaeh? Why Nevaeh? Right? Like, she has no specialty. It's like she's not technical. Right? Usually when you put together a tag team, it's like a power one, and there's a technical one, or a power one and a speed one, or a power one and a personality one. She's none of those. She's not the personality. She's not the power. She's not the speed. She's not the technique. She just exists. She just exists. And I didn't really think about it until I had to sit here and watch this, that I've been watching Nevaeh for over a year. I have no idea who she's supposed to be or what she's supposed to be. I have no earthly idea. She just exists in Havoc's shadow. And the only thing I know about Havoc, other than she fools around the demon realm sometimes, is that she was about to get signed by WWE until they found some racist tweets. Anyway, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz actually won the match after Kiera Hogan pinned Nevaeh with a fisherman neckbreaker, which is actually a sweet finish. And Gail Kim and Madison Rayne delivered the titles to Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, who are now the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. And I think this is a new lineage. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like this is a new lineage for the Knockouts Tag Team titles, and it will not be connected to the old titles. So, very interesting. So, we'll do that together. Ace Austin comes out. I'm skipping something. I'll get back to it. Ace Austin comes out, and I did not know how much he was going to sound like a bumpkin. Like, I've heard him talk before, but this was like, I think this might have been like the first live promo I ever heard him do. And he sounded like he was straight up from like rural Tennessee. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just sounds like a real bumpkin. Anyway, he says that he's the number one contender for the X Division title, and he is demanding that Scott D'Amore put him in the X Division championship match and make it a fatal 4-way. Scott D'Amore refused that request, and said that, he's not going to do that. But since he came dressed, he was going to give him an opponent. And his opponent was, dun dun dun, Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona of AEW fame. That Matt Cardona. What a superstar. What a superstar that guy is, right? He's a legend in his 1 month run on Dynamite. So he was a surprise, and I groaned because the idea of him and Brian Myers being together again makes me ill. But Cardona is a good pickup for Impact. He's a little washed, but they might be able to get some mileage out of him, just like they might get some mileage out of Heath. There's still some value in these guys, even though they're WWE mid-carders that have been around forever. Who knows what they're gonna, what they may bring. And I'm never about just giving up on people, right? I'll give up on a persona or a personality, which is why I talk a lot about the characters, because you never really want to give up on a person. You never know what the person can actually do, what they may change into, what they may fall into, So I'm not gonna just be like, oh, Matt Cardona, what shit, even though. What shit? But it's still like, yeah, he comes out, he's basically still Zack Ryder. But who knows? He may have a nightmare one day and decide to be something different. He might decide to go down a different path and actually take this opportunity at being on the independents or being an Impact and actually wanting to do something different with his career and not just be the same guy he's been for 15 years. Who knows? But this match ended in disqualification because Madman Fulton interfered, and I thought that was pretty silly. Now, look, I'm not saying beat Ace Austin. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's kind of silly to bring this guy in as a surprise. He works 4 minutes with Ace Austin, and then it all just goes to shit in disqualification. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's so anticlimactic, and it's so silly, But I'm not sure how I would have done it even better. Maybe you would have had Ace Austin run away and get counted out, But that's no better. It's just weird to put him in this position. You really could have just said, you could have had Brian Myers or somebody come out and say, I should be on this show. And then you could have had Brian Myers and Matt Cardona stand face to face and, maybe pretend like they're going to fight and then they end up being buddies or something, anything, But they got Ace Austin on the show. Who was one of my guys. I like Ace Austin, so I'm gonna take a L and move on that one. So the X Division Championship match was next. Rohit Raju versus Manic versus Chris Bay, and Matt Striker was, of course, talking about how TJP is Manic. And D'Lo Brown was like, "Oh, why were you saying that? Why would you say that?" And Matt Striker was like, "Oh, TJP wrestles such a unique style." And that since Manic wrestles the same style as TJP, it's got to be TJP. And when he would do a TJP spot or something like that, he'd be like, only TJP could do something like that. It's got to be TJP. And D'Lo Brown was like, he's just mimicking TJP. And I kept saying, look at his fucking tattoos. Look at his tattoo. He has the same tattoos as TJP. Idiots. I know you're not supposed to blow up the gimmick, but he literally comes out there in the Filipino colors with the same tattoos as TJP. He's not covering that shit up as closely as y'all think. Anyway, Rohit Raju was just obsessed with snatching the mask off. He eventually did get the mask off and found out that Manic was wearing face paint underneath, which I actually thought was cool because the face paint is a lot better than the mask. But even with the mask off, you could definitely tell it's TJP. So whatever. But the match was solid. The match was very solid. I like that TJP does this move called the Mamba Splash, where it's kind of like he does like this weird thing with his legs while he's in the air. And Chris Bay caught him mid-flight and gave him like an RKO, which was pretty sweet. It was pretty cool. And I really enjoyed that. TJP does pretty sweet combination moves sometimes. Like he did this really cool abdominal stretch crucifix bomb. Like saying it, and you have to like see it. Like he put him in an abdominal stretch, and then he just kind of tossed him back into a crucifix bomb. And it only got a 2. But Manic ended up pinning Rohit Raju with a roll up to win the match. And it was the best match, of course, at this point. It was a great match. And I hate triple threat matches, and I hate TJP. And I hate Rohit Raju. So I'm giving these people a lot of credit. The match on the card was Taya Valkyrie versus Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts Championship. Earlier in the show, Rosemary and Crazy Steve offered to be in Taya's corner because, they knew that Deonna Purrazzo was not coming to the ring alone. They had to talk her into it, but eventually Taya allowed them to come. So Taya is, being flanked by Decay, and Deonna Purrazzo has got Susan, the brainwashed Su Yung, and Kimberly with her at ringside. The match just begins with all 6 people fighting. Everybody's getting into a one big schmoz. The referee throws out Decay and Kimberly and Susan. All of them get thrown out. So we're left with Taya Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo. And this match rocked. It rocked. Deonna Purrazzo don't miss, dog. All of her matches since she came to Impact have been good. Every single one. She has not missed. Everything she does is good. She works a believable style, very grappling based. She targets something, she works it. She had a fantastic Tequila Sunrise on Taya. Taya sold everything very, very well. She controlled the ring. Deonna Purrazzo, I'm talking about. Taya was fighting from underneath. She was fiery in a lot of ways because, she's used to, she's not really used to being a babyface, but she's a veteran. She knows how to do that. And Deonna Purrazzo wins by submission with the omoplata, which is, it's a kind of a double arm bar. And it was very solid. She got Taya Valkyrie to submit. She beat her head up 1-on-1. And that was excellent. It was an excellent match. It was really good. Now, I think, we'll talk about this at the end, but I think this was the farewell for a lot of people in Impact. And I think Taya might be one of them. But this was really good. And Deonna deserves a hell of a lot more credit than she gets for being as good as she is, And she is legit. She's legit. I say a lot that Charlotte's the best female wrestler in the world, but Deonna is very quickly catching up. She is very quickly catching up. I'm just talking about just off of her presentation and everything is getting better too. It's actually pretty good, So, but her in-ring stuff is crazy. It's crazy. Her in-ring stuff is really good. She probably wouldn't even get these opportunities in WWE. So it's good that other promotions exist. Because her style is not something that, WWE will focus that much on. And I know I probably shouldn't even be talking about them anymore, but since I brought up Charlotte, I just kind of figured I'd do that. As her style is very old school. It's like an old school mat-based style, and it's very good. I said that already, but it is. So oh my goodness. Ethan Page versus the Karate Man. All right, so what we got was a cinematic cluster. It wasn't a clusterfuck, because a clusterfuck means that there was that it was like a car crash, right? You see different things clumped on top of each other. This was grade A, 6 pounds of dog shit in a 3-pound bag. That's what it was. This was bullshit. This was 6 minutes of pure shit beamed directly into your brain via Impact Wrestling. So I did kind of peek on Twitter to see what people thought. And somebody was like, this is an A- show. I was like, this Karate Man shit alone, if I didn't know, if I was walking into this and didn't have any idea what was going on and I saw that, I would turn it off. I would turn it off. And this was not long. It wasn't 15 minutes. And that's the only thing that saved it, is that it was short. It was not funny. It was not really even interesting. It was stupid beyond words. And yes, I will end up going through it. Now, I'm not going to go through it in detail because I was sitting there stupefied by the fact that they put this on the screen. So what happens is you get the cinematic match where Ethan Page approaches the Karate Man, and they're in front of a green screen. And the back of the green screen, the background keeps changing. You know, 1 minute they're in a waterfall, the next minute they're on top of a mountain, the next minute there's like birds flying around them, then they're on a beach, and this whole time is they're fighting. So it's like Dragon Ball Z almost, right? And you know they're throwing, of course they're throwing punches at each other and they're ducking because this is like it was a Mortal Kombat motion capture scene. And I said that before we started getting to the Liu Kang kicks and people getting their hearts ripped out of their chest. I literally saw one man, like he was throwing the punches and the kicks, and I just said to myself, I remember when they was watching the guy who did the Johnny Cage motion capture, and you could see him doing that stuff, right? Like the punches and the kicks, like yeah, 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 and that's what they did in front of a green screen. They just did Johnny Cage motion capture shit in front of a green screen. And then the Karate Man knocked down Ethan Page. Well, they also did a Dragon Ball Z like glowing fist bump where they was trying to punch each other with glowing fists, and it was like shaking, and there was like blue balls of light around each fist. So they was like they had magic powers. And you know, so then they did the Liu Kang bicycle kicks where he's like choo 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 and kicking Ethan Page in the chest, and then he finished him by ripping his heart out of his chest. So Karate Man killed Ethan Page, and he says, "So maybe you're not so hard to kill," and walked off, and that was the end. Fuck this stuff, man. Fuck this. Look, everybody can't do everything, right? The reason why the Fiend can get away with some of this stuff is because he's established as being a magical character. The reason The Undertaker can get away with it, he's established as being a magical character. There's nothing magical about Ethan Page, right? He's always just been wrestler. This is the same problem Matt Hardy's got. You know, like, it's like you go from being a regular guy to being a wizard. And it's like, you have to explain how you became a wizard, right? Like, if you already an undead zombie, the fact that you know, can rise from the grave is not beyond, you know, not beyond logic. But the fact that you have an alter ego, which you can talk to and fight, and there's no established, you know, conception of you being, one, mentally ill, two, being magical, how is this working? It's like if Batman all of a sudden can lift cars. And you could say, well, it's a comic book. Superman can lift cars. Therefore, Batman should be able to lift cars. It's like just they don't have the same power set. You know, the Punisher can't go and just start. You know, can't outrun a helicopter or you know, a motorcycle because the Flash can do it. And say, well, they're both comic book characters. It's like, no, you have to operate within the world that you set. If you wanted to be Karate Man or something else, you could have started that shit a long time ago and planted the seeds for it a long time ago and did that shit a long time ago, right? Like when Rosemary does all her silly demon realm shit, it's because we already recognize that Rosemary is a demon monster magic character. We already know that she's going to do stupid shit, right? Like we already know stupidness is coming. We don't have to reestablish or break the rules of this world, break the canon in order for her to do silly shit. She can already do silly shit because she's a magical demon. We've already known that, right? Matt Hardy, you know, like the stuff at the Hardy compound wasn't always magic. It was meant to be legit. And then it started becoming magic, you know? And I think that whole thing where the cinematic matches and nothing matters, some people have just gotten the idea that, well, if you can do a cinematic match, I can do one too. And no, you have to know your characters. You have to know where you fit on the card. Not everybody can fit in that same profile. You know, Gallows and Anderson got murdered in a cinematic match in WWE, but they're perfectly fine. You know, but they got killed. They literally got killed off. You know, Undertaker threw a fireball in that match too. Like it's like, Because he's Undertaker. He's magic. He can do magic shit. But you didn't see Gallows and Anderson or AJ Styles doing magic shit. They were just regular guys in a magic situation. You know, you get what I'm saying? So if Ethan Page, if they had established in some way that Ethan Page was magical, now they kind of established Karate Man is magical, but we're not being told like this is in the Karate Man's memory or something like that. You know, like the Firefly Funhouse, which we for a long time we believed was inside Bray Wyatt's mind. We already knew Bray Wyatt was a magical character. Therefore, you can go into his mind and see things and hear things and stuff like that. That there was no such thing that came out of this Karate Man Ethan Page shit. So this was just fucking stupid, and I felt stupid for having to watch it. And it was only 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes of fucking pure idiocy, butt fuckery of the highest order. So I'm gonna skip something else because we're gonna talk about all of the main event stuff in the main event. So then we get to the barbed wire massacre. Eddie Edwards versus Sami Callihan. Earlier in the night, Alicia Edwards wanted to accompany Eddie to the ring. I don't know why. She just did. And then Eddie Edwards was like, no. We can't have that. So they kind of planted the seed that maybe Ken Shamrock was going to interfere, or, you know, Alicia Edwards was going to fuck it all up by coming down to ringside. But it was a pointless segment because nobody interfered and nobody was at ringside. They just fought each other. So the barbed wire massacre, it was nowhere near as bloody as the Terry Funk Sabu match, which looked like two men after a plane crash. It was sickening. It was quite the spectacle. That Terry Funk Sabu thing was quite the spectacle. And yeah, I know that what is that guy named Atsuki Onita, and Terry Funk was blowing limbs off each other in Japan and all that dumb shit. This wasn't that. Okay, it was stupid, you know, because barbed wire match, of course, is stupid. But if you're going to be stupid, I can accept stupid. Just go full stupid, right? Just go all the way with it. And they kind of did so. And they didn't go full idiot, you know, we're going to bleed into each other's mouths. They didn't go that far. But it went, you know, on a stupid scale, they probably went about 7, which is fair. You know, it's stupid to even have the match. But, you know, if you're going to go stupid, you might as well go full stupid. You should have just been a 10 and just bled in each other's mouths and spit in each other's faces and all that other gross shit, right? But they didn't go that far. So there was a variety of weapons around the ring. There was a cage panel on one side of the ring that was wrapped in barbed wire. There was tables wrapped in barbed wire. There was boards wrapped in barbed wire. There were kendo sticks wrapped in barbed wire. There was a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. The ropes were wrapped in barbed wire. There was a Nintendo 64 controller wrapped in barbed wire. And that's what took it from a 6 to a 7. Because I legit said I couldn't imagine, you know, Sabu and Terry Funk being in the middle of the ring with a PlayStation controller, hitting each other in the head with it. I just couldn't. Not something I thought those guys would be involved with, you know. Like, I love the Nintendo 64 as much as the next person. I legit do. But this felt out of place. It felt like we had to do something silly in addition to doing something bloody and ridiculous. The match began with a lockup. That was the stupidest thing about this whole ordeal. The match began with a lockup. They locked up. It was so stupid, in fact. And I'm pretty sure you're like, why are you so upset about this? Because blood feuds should not begin with lockups. If anything should start hot, where people just throwing hands at each other, it is the blood feuds. This is supposed to be the end of a 3-year feud. These dudes are locking up. They're using a lockup. So then Matt Striker tries to, and D'Lo Brown, God bless them, they started saying like, well, these guys are trying to feel each other out. They're trying to feel each other out. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is a lockup. They're doing a collar and elbow in the middle of a barbed wire massacre. It's fucking dumb. So Sami Callihan had a barbed wire halo scratched across his head. You know, they fell all over the place, bleeding all over each other. There was one spot that made, it was kind of interesting where Sammy Callahan picked up the kendo stick wrapped in barbed wire, and Eddie Edwards picked up the baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. And then they both saw that they had each other's trademark weapon. Because, you got Kenny, the kendo stick for Eddie Edwards, and you got the baseball bat for Sammy Callahan. And they traded weapons, right? And it was and on commentary, it was like, it's like a sign of respect. And I said, it's a sign of Eddie Edwards being a fucking idiot. You've got a metal bat wrapped in barbed wire. This is supposed to be like a fight to the death. And you're going to give your opponent the more dangerous weapon so that he can use it on you. Come on, bro. Literally, come on, bro. This is that performance shit and not the fight shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a fight, he would have had to take it from you. You know? And in a performance, it's, will be a cool visual if we like traded weapons, because the fans know like the bat is my thing and the kendo stick is your thing. So they would be like, oh, that's kind of dope. Like, but this is supposed to be a fight. This isn't a fucking theater. This is supposed to be a fight. Now you can do theater, but it should be theater. This is supposed to be a fight. So, whatever. Whatever, bro. So, there was a power driver from a second rope through a barbed wire board by Sammy Callahan, and it only got a 2 count. It's only got a 2 count. There was a Boston knee party, which is, of course, a Shining Wizard, from the knee of Eddie Edwards through a chair wrapped in barbed wire into the face of Sammy Callahan. That only got a 1 count because he kicked out at 1. So apparently somebody watched AEW Dynamite. And then Eddie Edwards wins with the Emerald Flosion through a table wrapped in barbed wire to win the match. And I was like, it wasn't terrible, right? It wasn't a bloody, gory, disgusting mess, but it also was not terrible. It was decent, The Abyss barbed wire matches were so much better and more fun than this. But, I mean, it is what it is. The commentary, having 2 baby faces do commentary for this was pretty weird. But it worked, I guess. They kept talking about, these are human beings. We care about them. And this is such a dangerous sport. And we do everything for this sport and sport. I'm like, okay. These guys have families. They've got kids. Sport. Like, what the fuck? Who cares? Okay, so the main event is main event time. So let's talk about everything that involved the main event. So, I talked about Alex Shelley already. Earlier in the night, Chris Sabin and Rich Swann were talking, and they were talking strategy. And then Moose showed up. And then Rich Swann immediately gets mad because Moose showed up. And he's like, when Alex Shelley said he couldn't be here, I thought we was going to have, who would have been great at our side? Willie Mack. But you took out Willie Mack. I can't trust you, Moose. I ought to tear your head. Instead of saying, like, I ought to tear your head off right now for you did to my friend, it was basically, oh, well, I have to be partners with you. So then Moose says, look, I don't have to like you. I won football games with guys that I despised, but when, we're wearing the same jersey, when the whistle blows, I'll die for them. Same thing here. I'm on your side when the whistle blows. And I thought that was very mature, for starters. And it was a great analogy. I'm like, that's fantastic. That's really good. Like, we don't have to like each other. We're fighting off these invaders. We don't have to like each other. That was good. Later, Don Callis is slick talking, and he's he comes across Moose in the hallway, and he's talking about, well, hey, Moose, like, I was just looking over your contract. See, you got 2 more years here. We got a long time away from each other. This is going to be great. I see you're in this match. It ought to be really fun. I'm going to tell Kenny about it. Going to put in a good word for you. Kenny's going to look out for you. The real world champ's going to take care of you. As long as but make sure you don't do too much out there. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want to cost anybody any money. And, brother it up a little bit. And Moose is just sitting there letting him go on and on and on. And Don Callis is so good, right? Like, he is so good. He's just going on and on and on. And Moose basically tells Don Callis the same thing he told Rich Swann. I've won games with people that I didn't like. It's going to be the same thing here. And he says that, once I win this match tonight, I'm going to beat Rich Swann for the Impact World Title, and then maybe I'll come after Kenny Omega's AEW World Title. And Don Callis was like, whoa. Let's not get too far here. And then obviously we got 2 more years together. And Moose just walks off. Don Callis is really good. He's the best part of this whole shit here. He was great. So we get to the match, and during the entrances, you can look at the level of presentation and tell who the stars were and who weren't. Moose gets this grand entrance where he gets 2 different theme songs. Lights are turned out. He gets an elongated entrance. I love Moose's entrance. I love Moose's theme song. He got the badass theme. And I want to talk about themes right now because Eddie Edwards' theme song pisses me off. It fucking sucks. Okay? I forgot to say that when I was talking about the Barbed Wire Massacre. And I think I should say that every time I see Eddie Edwards. His theme song fucking sucks. It sounds like some Good Charlotte 2001 shit. It's trash. It needs to go away. It's trash. But when you see the entrances of Moose, you're like, okay, they think Moose is a star. Here comes Chris Sabin. He's got a pretty much an average entrance, whatever. You get Rich Swann, and just the music alone tells you that this guy's not serious. We're here to party. It's like, oh, welcome to the party. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I've been saying over and over again since it happened, Rich Swann should not be a world champion. His presentation is not correct. He's presented as a mid-carder carrying a world title. Then the Good Brothers come out, and they got this groovy, bluesy theme song that fits their characters. They feel bigger. They are big, especially Gallows. He's big. They look like they hunt ducks. They look like tough guys. And then Kenny Omega comes out. Don Callis does the Kenny Omega entrance. He doesn't do the AEW entrance. He basically just says, he basically just talks them up. Says that, Hackenschmidt, Gotch, Flair, Hogan, none of them can compare to the wrestling god, Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega comes out in a Bullet Club shirt. And then that's why I noticed that Gallows and Anderson are also wearing Bullet Club gear. And throughout the night, the commentators are trying to avoid using the words Bullet Club. So there's a Bullet Club shirt wearing by Kenny Omega. It's orange. It was black with his orange lettering and orange logo. And he mouths the words Halloween 2021. So something's going to happen in October. I don't know what, but that ought to be interesting. But the commentators are trying to avoid using the words Bullet Club. They would just say the band, the club, these guys, that organization, that faction. They would say anything other than the words Bullet Club. But the Bullet Club is on Gallows' tights, it's on Anderson's tights, and it's on Omega's shirt. Interesting. Now, I know that they've been, that New Japan Pro Wrestling owns the logos to Bullet Club and all that type of stuff. So maybe they're trying to avoid promoting them as Bullet Club so that they don't get sued. But that was interesting. Now, before we get into the match, I want to talk about some of the other stuff. For this is supposed to be an invasion angle, right? We all agree this is an invasion angle. If it's an invasion angle, why did Matt Striker say that AEW was co-promoting this event? If this is an invasion angle, why is Matt Striker saying hello to the commentary teams of AEW? If this is an invasion angle, why were Striker and D'Lo Brown sucking up to Kenny Omega all night, saying, "Oh, he might be the best wrestler in the world. He might be the best wrestler." They said that is just 8 times throughout the night. How great Kenny Omega is. He's so fantastic. He's so good. He's so this. He's so that. Isn't he the best, D'Lo? He's so good, D'Lo. He's great, D'Lo. Look at him, D'Lo. Look at him run, D'Lo. Look at his hair flop around, D'Lo. Look at him. And it's like, I thought this was a fucking invasion. Is this an invasion or not? Is this an invasion or not? You can't have a co-promoted invasion. You can't have that. That doesn't make any sense. If it's sanctioned by both parties, it's not an invasion. It's a crossover, right? And that's the thing that's kind of screwing with me about this. Is it an invasion or is it a cross promotion? Tony Khan says, "Well, I let Kenny Omega go to Impact." Then it's not an invasion. If he's appearing on your show with the full weight of his company behind him, and you guys are letting him be on the show, he's not, sneaking in or, coming in through the back door or anything like that. It's not an invasion. And even if you try to say, well, Don Callis is letting him in, letting him do all this stuff, pretty much everybody is letting him do all this stuff, because Scott D'Amore is okay with it too. Scott D'Amore is okay with it. Don Callis is okay with it. Tony Khan's okay with it. It's a co-promotion. It's not an invasion. So why do we keep talking about this like it's an invasion? And this is why, that's why I wanted to wait till I get here to talk about the Moose thing, because Moose was like, I don't like no invaders coming into my territory. And I was like, that'd have been fine if they were really invading and they weren't supposed to be there, but it's like, they have a right to be there too, because your boss said they can come. You know what I'm saying? Like, some kid shows up to your birthday party and you don't want him there. So what? Your parents invited him. So what are you going to do about it? Nothing. So they need to make up their minds. But this is part of the whole, we're trying to be cool. We're trying to do old stuff and not knowing what you're doing. They need to pick, they can't pick a lane now. It's too late. But you can't co-promote an invasion. You can't do that. That's nonsense. So let's get into this match, because I know y'all care so much about this match. So this match was pretty fun. Overall, the match was fun. I particularly enjoyed Moose. Moose stood out. Moose was fan-fucking-tastic in this match. Moose worked like a babyface in this match because he's smart. He knew he was on the babyface side in this match. So he did babyface shit. He did a standing moonsault at one point. He did all types of, he did a Spanish fly from the top rope on Kenny Omega. He saved these guys, these smaller guys, He had some really good exchanges with Doc Gallows. He really turned it on for this match. He was really good. Omega was Omega. He just did all his Omega stuff. Rich Swann is not a bad worker. He just shouldn't be in this position, So I really like the Omega and Swann part. Like, it's like in the later part of the match, Omega and Swann they're kind of throwing forearm shivers back and forth. And that's when it kind of made Swann feel like he was on Omega's level. And then Omega just crushed him with like a Snapdragon suplex, then a power driver, and he almost got pinned. So, that was fine. But like I said, Moose did his shit. It was great. I didn't like all of the extra stuff that they do, like when you have guys DDTing their own partner, or you do a Hurricane Rana, and so he does a swanton off the top rope. Like, that's what they did. Like, they did like a Hurricane Rana from the top rope on Kenny Omega, and it ended up being like a swanton onto Carl Anderson. I'm like, come on, bro. I hate that shit. I hate that. Oh, how fortuitous that I made you fall on your own partner. How fortuitous that I knocked you over and you DDT'd your own partner. How fortuitous. Like, no, I can't stand that. It looks stupid. It looks fake. It looks phony. It looks like bullshit. But I did like the Rich Swann Omega stuff. I loved Moose and his engagement into this match. Chris Sabin was okay. He hit his finish on Kenny Omega, and they didn't kick out of it. It was a breakup. They broke it up, and so it was a fun match overall. Outside of, if you can get past the story being confusing and stupid, it was fun. It was just a mindless 6-man tag. It was fun. Nobody gained anything. Nobody lost anything. Not really. Kenny Omega pins Rich Swann with the one winged angel. And, well, of course, this leads to Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann down the line. Makes sense. Even though you pinned your world champion. And a lot of people were like, well, why would you do that? Why would you pin your world champion? I was like, the only reason you would have Omega, especially when you could have had Chris Sabin take the pin. The only sense it would have made is because you're going to do Omega and Swann later. That's the only reason it makes sense. If you're going to do Omega and Swann later, yeah, you would pin Rich Swann tonight or at the show, and that's what they did. So it's all fine. It's all fine. Rich Swann isn't the main event guy anyway, so it's all fine. The show itself was trending. I guess it trended number 5. At least that's what they told us when I was watching the show. I didn't check Twitter at the time. There was a lot of difficulties. D'Lo Brown's his mic went out for like 2-3 minutes one time during the barbed wire massacre. They kept leaving the mics hot during the kickoff show or whatever the hell they call it, the pre-show. The commentary was much better because it wasn't Josh Matthews, but having 2 babyface commentators was kind of weird. I like D'Lo. I got to get used to him doing commentary. I'm used to Matt Striker, but I was kind of weirded out by the 2 babyface commentators because they just basically they're complimenting everybody. They're putting everything and everybody over. There's nobody taking the bad guy side when the bad guy cheats anymore or anything like that. So it's gonna take some getting used to. But overall, it was okay. It was an okay show. Deonna Purrazzo killed. Best match on the show as far as I'm concerned. Main event was pretty good. 6-man tag was pretty good. Barbed wire massacre was okay. Everything before the X Division match was kind of forgettable. The women's tag team title match was kind of like, meh. The Decay, the intergender tag team match was like, meh. The hardcore match with, Tommy Dreamer and all those guys. It's like, that, of course, was overshadowed by the barbed wire match, which was on the same card. So you really shouldn't have put all that on the same card. You know what I'm saying? And it was a 6-man tag, and the main event's a 6-man tag. Even though it was a 6-man, like, scrum. It was old school rules. There was no tags. Right? So you basically had that Diener Violent by Design match was basically an amalgamation of the 2 other matches that was already going to be on the show. So you just basically had a hardcore match without the barbed wire, and a 6-man tag main event without the stars. So, but overall, it wasn't a bad show. The crowd sweetener helped, and they actually seem to care about this now. Maybe Anthem actually gives a shit, and they're trying to get over. But Don Callis was amazing. Moose was great. Kenny Omega was consistent. The Good Brothers were good. Chris Sabin disappeared a little bit. He's very small. I like that they used him to quicken the pace, but he wasn't an effective part of the match. He didn't feel important enough in the match. Swann, of course, felt important because he was the world champion. They singled him out. And similarly, Moose felt important because he was doing standout stuff. So ultimately, the show was fine. Pretty good show. If you're not interested in Impact, don't bother. If you are interested in Impact, you probably but let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel, spread the word of 3 Count commentaries. Send me money, please, if you can, especially if you want something specific done or a question answered or something like that. I will gladly do so. And I thank you guys for listening because this video went a little long. But let me know what you guys think of the show in the comment section below. Or if you just listened to this and you didn't actually watch the show, what did you think of what I said? And let me talk to you guys later.
Yeah.